Let's get one thing straight. New Yorkers are not like other people. And I'm not talking about the New Yorkers that live in places like Buffalo or Albany. I'm talking about those of us that grew up in the surrounding boroughs. There are 11 million of us that live within a 50-mile radius. And what that does is a few things. One, we have the world's greatest BS meter. And as a car guy, that's one of the most important traits you can ever have. The car behind me belongs to a friend of mine, and the mechanics in the build is as genuine as the owner that we're going to showcase today. So stay tuned for a very New York-based episode of the House of Muscle.
Welcome to my city.
Seeing my buddy Eddie and his 1972 Oldsmobile Cutlass could mean only one thing. I was back home in my old neighborhood.
This car is pretty raw, right? Carbureted 540 big block, reverse manual valve body, 12-bolt rear end, smoking torque, smoking horsepower. I'm gonna get out of this thing today. I'm going to smell like fuel. I'm going to be somewhat filthy. But there's a charm about this. There's a charm about a car that makes you feel like you've had an experience and that you've had an interaction. I feel like every time I rev the motor, I get more chest hair. Roll! I remember when the first time I actually saw it, I heard this thing just rumble. And it just looked burly. The guy behind the wheel had on these black wraparound sunglasses, and the license plate on the car said, "Ayo!"
I mean, if you're gonna have a loud, obnoxious car, you might as well have a loud, obnoxious plate to go with it. I'm a New Yorker, and most of our vocabulary consists of, "Hey, oh!" And that's me. What are you gonna do? When I first got the car, it was black. It didn't have the gold stripes on it, didn't have these wheels. It wasn't raked like this. It was just a black Cutlass with red pinstripe. It was pretty sinister in its own respect, but it was like a carbon copy. You know, it's like everybody had one, weld wheels. I was like, okay, so my first car show ever, and I wound up meeting the actual builder of the car. He brought me up to date on what the car was built for and what it was done. They basically hung quarters on it. They did all the body work, and they put in a ZZ502 just to run at the track. That's all they did.
This car, you look at it and it says New York. It says, I'm a backroads brawler. If you want to race, I am more than happy to do so, but the odds of you winning are pretty damn slim. I'll tell you, this thing is wicked. Eddie changed the wheels. He put on a much more streetable wheel as far as, you know, a rim and tire combination. He's got 18-inch Shelby style wheels all around, running Continental Extreme Performance Sport tires. And there's a big thing here because now we went from like badass to badass cruiser. And when you're an adult, that's kind of nice because you still want people to look at you and go, that's pretty macho.
These guys had set up the car strictly to go racing. We detuned the engine a little bit. We made it more streetable, lowered the gear ratio in the back. We're gonna put some 373s. So now I figured, let me just set it up so I can actually drive the car and enjoy it.
We're talking about a 540 cubic inch Chevy big block, 700 horsepower, 680 pound-feet of torque. We've got a turbo 400 tranny with a reverse manual valve body through a Hurst shifter. And it fits the personality of the car, right? I mean, if it just had a regular automatic, which it used to because the column shift pin is still right here, you know, you look at the car and you'd be like, oh, it's kind of mundane. The fact that I have a reverse valve body and I got to bang through the gears to get this thing to go is, it's very fitting for what we are driving. Plus the fact that this car, I mean, like, you get on it, like, it's fast. You'll rip the tires off in third gear.
I wish I had an extra gear, you know, as we all do, right? But let me tell you, the first 3 gears, the only 3 gears in this car, first is wow, Second is holy crap. And third is I think I'm gonna crap myself. These were light to light cars. Every light was a starting gate. Every light was an opportunity to make you look bad. And if you were this guy named Petey with Mom's Nightmare, he basically embarrassed everybody.
When Eddie was growing up, so much of his car persona stemmed from what was around him in the neighborhood. Think of cars like Camaros and Trans Ams and Oldsmobiles, but they were not numbers matching. These were burly, raked out quarter-mile street racers.
I fell in love with cars when I was about 5 or 6. My entire block, unbeknownst to my parents, were a bunch of gearheads. It was just great. There was a lot of cars. Back then, you could get them for like $600, $700, and they used to do such crazy things to it that just one better than the other.
And that's one of the greatest parts about being a car guy here. Because everybody lives in such close quarters, because we're all connected, you never want for anything. If you need a part, it's there. If you need to find something or you break down and you need help, it's there. You know, New Yorkers get this bad rap about, you know, oh, you New Yorker, you don't want to help anybody out. That's a load of crap.
What would the recipe be? It would be a cheap car, a big engine, and a hell of a lot of patience, because they used to swap motors using tree branches and rope. Not everybody had engine hoists and booms that you could buy for $200. They improvised. Okay, an engine cradle was a tire. Basically whatever they had at their disposal, they used.
Local shops like Manico Auto Works are legendary for keeping borough cars like this running and on the road.
Basically, when I got the car, and after we did what we did and was swirling all over the place, Mike and his brother, Nicky, they said, hey, if you want to go this direction, squat the car down a little bit, put the Hotchkiss suspension in.
Right here you have the Hotchkiss fully boxed blower control arms. This helps a lot on the traction. If you're going to launch the car, the solid, it keeps the car steady on the ground.
Believe it or not, but keeping 700 horsepower connected to the pavement is actually a good thing. And if you want stuff done right here, you need a little bit of cash and a whole lot of attitude.
What, man? Start from there, bro.
What's the difference?
There is a difference. You don't start rolling the hose from the middle. That's it. You find it. Let it go. Get out of here. You're a bad payer too?
I'm a what?
I love you, but you don't like to pay.
What do you mean?
I don't know.
I pay with affection.
Right.
That's where I come from. Uh-oh, why are we being stopped? Somebody wants to talk to us. How are you?
Nice car, man.
Oh, thanks. I wish it was mine.
Oh,
No,
what
this
is
is
it?
my buddy Eddie's car.
Oh, okay.
Did a nice job on it, though, didn't he?
WD-40 in there?
No, this is a 540 cubic inch Chevy.
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 Wow.
Yeah.
I got a 55 Chevy.
Yeah? What do you got in it?
I got a small block.
Neighborhood car?
Push. Light them out, man. Come on.
So here's the thing. If you guys haven't figured it out by now, having a car like this in the neighborhood is kind of amazing. You have gentlemen like Pete that just went by, and the stories that you'll hear from guys that grew up here are amazing. Because aside from like Francis Lewis Boulevard, Connecting Highway was a big street race spot where guys would literally tow their cars in and then race them. I could talk to that gentleman for hours. And I guarantee you the stories that he would tell us are things that, well, you wouldn't believe.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday were the best days. My face would be pressed up against the glass, and all you would hear is the house shake and rumble, and it's just sick. The smell of race gas. Well, back then, I think it was available on the pump all the time. It was leaded fuel, and I was just hooked. They would test and tune right there on 41st Avenue. It was great. There was a lunatic with a white Thunderbird, like a 60s Thunderbird, that just baked the tires all the time. That was my hero.
Is it okay that there's smoke coming out the back?
Oh, is it really?
I'm seeing a little bit of, I think it's the exhaust. When you stopped, I saw a little whiff of it go by.
Well, we'll probably burn an oil.
Okay.
We'll go back just to make sure.
Thankfully, it wasn't an oil leak, but rather a belt that was starting to shred. But you see, we broke down in the neighborhood.
You shredded
Oh,
it.
you shredded the back.
Within minutes, our buddy Andre was on scene and more than willing to help us out.
At least it held
Still
on.
there? It's still there.
You can't
You
rev
see
it.
how it's pitched in like that?
It eats itself off.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of time. You're going to be down. It's going to just break.
like
You're gonna be fucked.
My girl lost her belt. You can tell her that you're going to take care of her. All right?
But what we're gonna have to do at this point is be nice to the car for the next couple of days, because otherwise it's gonna keep doing this. Because if you think cars don't know, you're dead wrong. They know everything.
They definitely know. I'm sorry, baby. I'm going to have them machine me is a toilet guide for both sides of that.
You know what you need also? You need a deep groove.
Yes, very deep, so it
Very-
can't fly out.
'cause
Right
I was-
now, these pulleys are shallow.
What non-car people will never understand is that these cars are not just family cars, but instead, they're members of the family.
Favorite part of this car to me is sitting behind the wheel and looking at these two humps on the hood. Every part of this car I enjoy. Like, I always used to have a fender that I enjoyed on other cars. I enjoy every part of this car. The hood, especially the crevice between the two scoops. It's almost like caressing a woman in a way, you know. It's kind of like, it does it for me. I mean, I know I'm crazy, but you know what? It's either this or a real woman. Right, babe?
Oh, that's part of it. Oh, here's another part of it.
Regardless of how many nuts you tighten and how many bolts you turn, 45 years of rolling over on New York City streets will take a toll on even the best kept automobile.
You hear the holes? You hear the potholes? Everything rattles. Now, ready? Listen. Right. That's a typical New York borough street. So while we are just cruising around having fun, you do get to the point where you're like, Jesus, now I gotta refit the door panel and the window crank just fell off, and now I gotta realign my hood because it shook all over the place. This is not something that is like I'm making up. This is just a fact of owning a car like this in the boroughs of New York. It's what it is.
It's not perfect, but you know what? I think I have an idea of what I'm going to do next. The gauge pod I made, it's my first attempt. I got these Pro Car seats. They were the older type. I don't think they make them anymore, but I'm happier with these cleaner lines. I'm a bigger guy, so I don't really want anything hugging me because they don't make anything wide enough to hug me with. So I needed the flat background a little bit flatter, a little bit lower, so that my head doesn't go through the headliner.
Is it perfect? No, it's not. But I mean, it doesn't have to be. I've got this roll cage in here that is just really friggin' annoying. But when he bought it, it was a quarter-mile car, right? It was a like-to-like car. It was a street race. So screw it. You had to have it in here. Are the brakes good? No. The brakes are terrible. Even though they're four-wheel disc, they're just, you know, like Eddie will tell you flat out. He's like, yeah, it was a cheap system, but I wanted to stop a little better. And I guarantee you it stops better than the drum brakes that were on here. It will always need a little bit of sorting here and there, as most old cars do. But I think that's okay.
Love affair I have is with cars. If I ever had to choose between another woman and my car, I'd pick my car. It keeps me young too, man. You know, the last 13 years of owning this car, every year I get in it and it's like I'm driving it for the first time.
Here's the deal. Eddie's done a great job with the fact that the dash, even though he's got some new autometer gauges, is still fairly stock. I have a cassette here, and on the cassette I've got, I don't know if you can see this, but I've got deep purple in there, which is kind of awesome. It feels like it's kind of like 1986, and this is what I should be driving. Like most vehicles, this car is really a product of its environment. What started off years ago as kind of a raked out street racer has now evolved into more of a stealthy street fighter. If you are that guy in that Porsche, that Ferrari, or Lamborghini, and this car pulls up next to you, you might want to think twice about putting the go pedal down. But like anything else, as the neighborhood evolves, well, so will the car. So I suppose in closing, the only thing that you can say is, well, you could take the car out of the neighborhood, but you'll never take the neighborhood out of the car. So just a reminder that episodes of The House of Muscle go live on MotorTrendOnDemand.com about a month before they go live on YouTube. So head on over there and check them out. The first time I saw this, I was kind of blown away. Over 2,000 pound-feet of torque at the rear wheels, pedal travel that's that much, and a price tag of around $300K. I am nervous. Shut up!
I want to be the first diesel-powered truck to go 200 miles an hour.
Yes, it's the best thing in the world! I don't really get speechless. This thing is just a masterpiece.
Watch the latest episode now.
I still wouldn't change a thing.